All right, welcome to the Go for CEO community. Thank you so much for joining us again today. It is a special guest. As we've been journeying through this through voyage of building this channel and bringing on different content. I'm trying to be non-traditional, really bring you different types of industries from manufacturing. You've heard a farm company on our channel. You've heard an attorney, a traditional business, those types of things. But today we have a special guest. He was so nice to be able to just talk and get to know him for a few minutes. So I have a conversation. I had a business card of his, and he answered the phone and he said, "Yeah, I'd love the opportunity to come on to Go for CEO." And God, he's built his own incredible business. He's got a Facebook page and a website and many episodes, and just a talented individual, and very neat to see this type of business grow in the world. So I'd like to introduce Mark Hernandez from People and Pets Energetics. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Hey, John. It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
No, I appreciate you coming on. And again, we're going to go through this journey today. I'm learning in the beginning of these stages to tell people hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. So please do that. But also, stay tuned. Because Mark's going to share some incredible stuff. I read his website and some of the things that he's done, and collaborated with other people in the energy field and pets and stuff like that. I lost my pet, unfortunately, in May to lung cancer, chocolate lab. 10 years of a relationship with that dog. Just basically our first child is what I considered him, and my wife as well. In fact, we have two baths, and the shower that he last took a shower in, we finally 4 months later finally took a shower in it, because we were just so distraught for many months of his footprints were on the bathtub and stuff like that. So anyway, before I start getting a tear in my eye, but hey, Mark, thank you so much again for joining us. So why don't we start with just kind of, gosh, just such a different industry, such a different business. How did you get started? Have you been all your life since you got out of school? Like what got you into this business?
Yeah. So what got me into doing what I'm doing as a intuitive energy healer and coach, my own life. First career, college professor, taught Spanish, Latin American, Latino studies for 20 plus years as a professor. And I had some unusual things going on in my professional life, things that made no logical sense and patterns. So one day back in 2007, I picked up the phone, called one of my siblings. He's a doctor of integrative medicine. So he's, a medical doc by training and does much more. So I told him what was going on in my professional life. He suggested that I work with an energy healer in New Mexico. At this time, I was living in Boston, 2007. So I did 2 1-hour sessions by phone with this healer out in New Mexico. And as I like to say, that proverbial frozen needle on the dial started to wiggle a little bit. That got my attention when nothing else had changed. So I was a little bit stubborn, said, we can still turn around this pattern, just sometimes we just need to will it through. And it wasn't meant to be. Now I know why. And so 2009, picked up the phone again, told my brother, hey, I want to learn that energy thing, because we all come into this lifetime with baseline abilities, do the type of work I'm going to talk about today. And also I discovered that I was given extra helpings, extra gifts that were meant to come online full blown later in my life. So with that, I started training, certifications. So that's how I got started in doing energy healing, energy medicine for people.
So you took an experience in your life through some sort of challenges that you had, and started thinking of this idea. Okay, you got certified. Was there specific schooling that you had to do, or was it through that gentleman that initially helped you? Did they have some sort of certification? How did that come about?
Yeah, great question. So in the field that I'm in is energy healing, energy medicine. There are different, methods, they call them modalities, that lingo speak. But basically, often your point of departures, inevitably as an energy healer, you gravitate towards one method or another as a starting point. And then everyone always expands from that. So my initial like full-blown exposure certification was in a method called the emotion code and the body code.
Mm.
It's a system where you learn how to identify negative trapped emotions that keep people stuck, or pets with health and well-being issues. And then the body code kind of builds on that and tracks other non-beneficial energies. So I got started with that, and then, did other certifications and built out from that.
Neat. And were you still a professor at that time, or kind of
Yeah,
dwindling that career?
it was kind of, again, this is maybe valuable for those, so my move from college professor, writing books, articles, editing journals, was kind of a pretty radical shift in some ways to being an entrepreneur. So for me, there were a lot of learnings I needed to do on my journey into the world of entrepreneurship. So maybe for some out there, if they were doing accounting in the corporate world and they're going to start their own consultancy practice, there's not quite as many moves they're going to be making. But mine was quite different in some ways and not in the other. So yeah, it was a gradual process. I'd like to say it was from day one to day two, but I was sometimes toggling back and forth between my original background in Hispanic studies and my energy healing work.
That's interesting. So, and as you went through the certifications, did you start to also reach out to people to, I guess, figure out the business model that you were going to use, or were you just thinking, hey, I've experienced it for myself, I'm getting certified, and I'm just going to share it? How did you kind of formulate the business model for yourself?
It was definitely a process. I think most people, energy healers, energy medicine practitioners, start out just because they want to share the experience. People that go into this field tend to be pretty caring, pretty sharing in general. So, and at the same time, like probably other your guests, you do need that business background to make it into a business. For some people, they may choose to keep it more at the hobby level, where it's just something they enjoy, like a passion project. They know it helps people, which is fine. And definitely you need the next level of business knowledge of running your own business when you want to make it a business that, supports yourself and your family.
Definitely, definitely. And so what shares a little bit of the strategy, right? Again, you get certified, you start building this kind of audience of people that are listening to you. I'm assuming, family, friends, people that acquaintances and colleagues at the university. So how did you start to then switch that into clientele, right? And the model of actually getting paid for what you were starting to develop as a practice?
Yeah, when I established my business in 2013, the main model at the time was doing local holistic fairs. I started my business in San Antonio. So every month there was a San Antonio Holistic Festival. So, there were all types of healers and, readers, psychics there, and you set up your table and have conversations with people. Probably that people that are starting their own business and it's something different than their previous background, there's a lot of experimentation and trial and error. Probably, looking to where I was when I started in 2013 to where I am today, I have greater clarity about my niching and my messaging. Okay. And part of that, I think, is, especially today where we're used to having instant results, instant something show up. Some things are still trial and error. So I like to say, if a recipe calls for putting the chicken breast in the oven for 325 for 20 minutes, you can't say, oh, I think I'll just put it to 650 for 10. Some things still take time. So there was a lot of trial and error, listening to what people wanted. I remember even when I started my working with pets, I thought people would be especially drawn, to the healing work with the pets. Okay. And lots of times, one of my early learnings, which I didn't listen to at first, was they wanted to know if their pet was happy where they're living or if they love them, stuff like that. And that mattered to people. And at first I said, don't you want the healing? But sometimes they were more kind of interested in the animal communication, which I also can do. But I think it's part of it is listening, what your customers or your potential clients want and finding a way to deliver it in the most effective way.
Yeah, you say it, truly there, finding the need, right? And then observing it, understanding it, discovering it, going deeper in it. So at the beginning parts of it, how did you structurally set up your business so that when you were going toggling back and forth, was there a time frame in the day? Did you use kind of a goal like, hey, I'm going to spend 5 hours a week? How did you start to build that momentum that we all need in business to really go full time when you do have a full-time job? Tell us a little bit of that story.
Yeah. So when I started my business in 2015, I was doing my business full time. Prior to that, I taught at an international school in Asia and came back with a reserve of cash, which is always valuable to get started with any business. Anyone that started most business know that most likely you're not going to turn a handsome profit in short order for most business. Some will. So did that, first 2 years were a lot of just kind of learning, went to local business networking events in San Antonio, learning how to talk about what I did to people that really knew pretty much nothing about what I did. So that was interesting. I was always a little bit nostalgic for, the plumbers. If Joe the plumber, you go to a business networking event, they kind of have an idea what Joe the plumber does. But, figure out, so one of my first things was figure out, how do I talk about what I do in a way that connects with people that I might be able to serve. So I did that for 2 years, setting up the website, immediately established my LLC. And, I realized like, ooh, wow, this is, I thought, had it defined that I was going to be offering services. So not, being too scattered with products and all sorts of things, and realized, ooh, this is going to take longer than I expected. So 2015 to 2018, I went back to full-time teaching at a private school in the US. And then kind of got, a clear message that it was time to return full-time to my healing work. And during that time, I was still building out my business, learning, like you said, full-time job, but also still learning a lot and going to holistic fairs on the weekend, networking events in the evening on my own time. And then I realized it was time. I just got very clear messages to return to my healing work. So since 2018, I've been doing my healing work full time and, learning a lot and, still learn something new every day for sure.
That's incredible. And the story within the story there is, you received a service at a time that you really needed something special in your life to change. You took then the next 5 years, which, unfortunately, most people, like you said, want to go 350 degrees to 700 and zap it. But in business, and to have the CEO mindset is that you're in it for the long term, right? Especially if you're going to grow something special like you have. So tell us, now you get to 2018, you really make that all-in decision. It looks like the capital that you had in reserve in 2015-ish maybe had dwindled down a little bit, but now you maybe picked it up again with a full-time job and going that route. What is it that you learned in those 5 years to then now feel super confident to go all in?
To go all in, I just got a lot of intuitive messages that it was time. I saw that the path I was on, again, I just knew it was time, and I had a little stash of cash again to go. That always helps to go ahead and say, we're going to go for it. As everyone knows, as a entrepreneur, nothing in life is guaranteed. And I just came to the conclusion, for me, we're going to go for it, make a run, and, put the pieces in place. And again, it's always like a little bit like shooting the rapids, you got to kind of be in the moment. Your boat's going to get turned over in the river. You pick yourself up. Sometimes you get knocked on your butt. You dust off your, knees and keep going. I've gotten a lot of encouragement, like I think any business out there, hey, it's not always a linear from here to there. There's setbacks, there's disappointments, and you always figure out a way because you are committed to that long-term vision. As you said, as a CEO, you're in it for the long haul, and you're going to figure out a way to make things happen.
I really enjoy that. Did you also then start to use maybe a network that you had, some other healers, start to maybe collaborate in masterminds? What were some things that helped you business wise and strategically to start to grow your enterprise?
Yeah. So one starting point of learning station was working with other practitioners of a modality called the body code. So I worked with them for a period of time. I think it's like every group, you have your learnings, and then, sometimes you're ready to move on to another stage. And then also 2 years ago, I worked with a spiritual business coach out of Canada. And one of my healer friends out of the UK recommended him. And yeah, he definitely helped me, with the next iteration of my niching, my messaging. And because of him, Coach Nick, I got started with my show, the People and Pet Show, which I launched in May of 2019. Did the foundational work. And so I started that. And then I think it's probably a lot of your previous guests, you know, being an entrepreneur, business owner, CEO, it's a lifelong learning process. I'm currently working with another spiritual business coach. Just started in a 3-month program uh, about a month and a half ago. And what just my immediate learning was the way I was attempting to market on Facebook, the way I was doing it two years ago was not up to date with today's, way of marketing. So I think, marketing, everything is changing very quickly. So I think exactly what you said, I think there's a lot of value to being an active part of mastermind groups. I know a lot of people are members of 3 or 4 for, different specific purposes, and it helps you stay current because as we know, marketing is the lifeblood, sales and marketing of any business.
Definitely. And they say, right, knowledge is power, but it's more powerful when you put it into action, right? So it looks like Coach Nick served you well for that period of your time, and you still have that relationship. This new coach is guiding you in different ways. So what are some actions that you've taken? I see the website, I see the Facebook page, I see some things. Obviously, you got your business card through a networking event at one point. Well, what are some actions that you've taken now that have solidified the way that you start to market and get clientele?
I think for me, for example, and this I'm shifting. Like, let me first address since the get go. A primary way that clients come to me are through referrals of my happy clients.
Mhm.
So, because my work is pretty specialized, it's not everyone's cup of tea for sure, but those that I can best serve, typically women professionals already in the holistic space, doing yoga, organic food eating, and whatever they usually do, seeing a chiro, acupuncturist with the specific issue just isn't working. As I always say, everything works till doesn't work. So if those pain people have some type of pain on some level, physical, emotional, spiritual, they've gone through 95% of the low hanging fruit, and I've been able to help them. Typically, they know other people in similar situations and they refer them to me. So I think my latest learning has been on using Facebook groups. And this is something I'm actually like when I started like my People and Pets show at the time, which I've learned is dated, the Facebook business page was being used more often. Now it's there, but it's more in the background. And they encourage everyone to grow your tribe through Facebook groups.
Mm.
So, as a way of kind of, definitely the currency right now is, as my understanding is organic marketing, so kind of building your tribe, entering into authentic conversations with people over time that potentially might be your, prospective clients. So that's
That's
one of my biggest learnings so far in the recently. And I think also the importance, especially right now with everything going on in the country, of still maintaining conversations, daily conversations. Okay. So by this, there's a group called the Happy Neighborhood Project. It started out in Sacramento in 2011 as a local group in California. And once COVID hit, it started doing its Sacramento meetings online through Zoom. Then they got the ideas, hey, why don't we just expand this out nationally and internationally? So now, as of this recording, there are over 55 weekly meetings in California, Texas, Boston, so if people are able to work remotely with clients or work around the US, it's great. And a lot of my clients are international. So, I'm going to be visiting India and Germany and some of the Europeans. I'll go to the meeting in England, and they're all free. And that's just a way of networking through a conversation of a woman I met on this group. She told me about a group for holistic coaches, out in the East Coast, but it's remote right now. So I think just maintaining, like you said, the conversations as part of the lifeblood of the business, staying current, staying in front of people, that's very important.
And what would you say the conversion, I guess, strategy, or even just kind of what you just shared, right? You build that relationship. Are you also giving maybe a 5-minute session for free? Are you enticing them to have a separate sit down past the group that you just met them in? How are you converting that into a paying clientele?
Yeah, so it's it's an organic process. So sometimes in the large group you meet someone and connect, typically on this group through LinkedIn, and then meet one-on-one for, call it meet and greet, usually for 30 minutes, but some have lasted an hour, some two when we go really in depth. And I think it's just making people aware when you have clarity about your niching and your messaging. For example, I tell people in this group, which is my main thing, is I help pets and pet parents with their health and well-being so that they are happier and healthier naturally. So people pretty understand I work with the pet and pet parents. Typically, that's not something they hear a lot. Okay. So then I share a story and then we follow up. Like I said, a lot of these conversations are more just for, supporting each other. So yesterday I was on a group meeting. It was actually out of Hawaii, and met some people that were interested in specifically serving military families. Okay. So that's not my background per se, but I have met other people. So I can be a source, say, hey, you need to have a chat with Todd because he's interested in the same things. Even if you're in Hawaii, he's in Arizona, there's a good chance in the military, people all over the world. So
Sure.
it's also about being a resource, as I'm sure many of your other guests have shared, always, be a giver, be the go giver, and just, trust that, over time, you'll connect with the people you're meant to connect with. So some of these, like, I'm not per se going to say it's like a blueprint strategy for converting conversations into customers. It's more of, let's have a chat. Let's just see where it goes. I did have a chat with this organizer out of Buffalo, New York. He just met him and said, let's have a 15-minute chat. Yeah. We had a chat. He goes, he goes, I want to invite you to my group to present online to my group in Buffalo in December. So I'm going to be doing that. He goes, and I want you to talk to my friend, Connie. And in the end, I had a chat with Connie, told her what I did, says, oh yeah. And she booked a session for her dog and herself. So.
And
Yeah.
I saw some of the price models, and tell me if I'm a little bit off here, but it was like half an hour, $110 an hour, about $200+. So, and it takes a lot of work from what you're talking about, right? And I want to just be honest, this channel is about teaching people what it really takes to be entrepreneur. You're investing a good amount of time, and you've decided to leave that kind of hourly mentality or salary as a professor to now where, you spent 3 hours on networking events, on talking to 15-minute chats, but you really didn't make any money. So how do you start to see that conversion for someone that's trying to say like, hey, I've got a service. I believe in what I do. I know I'm worth this, but how do I channel my hours of giving to then converting into, getting?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, something I learned from my current business coach is that I've been overgiving. I do a lot of mini healings. Healers, as I said, tend to be pretty giving types. And, so there's a way of, it's not about, I'm still doing my mini healings. And I'm also doing more mini readings. So, I give, but, I am scaling back on those. But I think the other thing about the model, like the long-term sustainability of any business. So I think as I continue to evolve and grow, we're going to be moving from the, what we'd call like a one-off session, people can book, which is fine, to people making a deeper investment of their time and money. Because lots of times, usually the people that come to me, they have something on their plate, but they usually have more than one something on their plate. Okay. Again, change can happen very quickly today. I've seen it. And usually if, they're older, gone through some trauma, like most people in life in one form or another, those changes are going to show up over time. So I'm also moving more from kind of like exclusively doing healing work, which I'll still be doing, to more coaching, okay, for pets, pet parents, but also people. Like I get a lot of requests. People are saying, can you teach me like something very important for people is to keep a clear and clean energy field, okay? As we know right now, a lot of stress, anxiety, angst in the collective, you and the Wi-Fi, all that lowers your frequency, which over time, not immediately, will affect your health and well-being. Okay. It'll show up as dis-ease, imbalance in the field, which often the Western medical community will call disease. Okay. So that's something I'm working on, building that out. I did a energetic hygiene package. It's a series of energetically encoded MP3s that you just play the music and it will clear out your energy field on different levels.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to be building more digital products and building out my coaching service, like you said, to make this, more of a, long-term, even more sustainable model.
Well, and you've transitioned perfectly, right? I appreciate the segue there to scalability, right? One of the challenges, I've owned a business in telecommunications and the automotive and in the financial world. And it's interesting, right? As a solopreneur, sometimes you can get stuck on saying like, hey, I'm the business, instead of building products and services that could be your business, right? There's a difference of working in the business and working on the business, right? So interesting stuff, so tell us, now with that conversion, are you using certain platforms? Are you seeing benefits with certain things? I know a few that come to my mind, but I want you to share kind of from your perspective, how you think you're going to kind of scale that out.
Yeah. So scale that out. Another way of scaling, like kind of diversifying the portfolio, going from, private healing sessions, which I'll still offer, is also do more group healings. So a couple benefits for people, they will receive in a virtual group healing event, they'll receive the benefits, many of the benefits of a private session. It's done remotely, so there's no conversation, but they'll receive many of the benefits at a lower price point. Because, since the pandemic, a lot of people that have been pivoting their business to more online stuff is, that can be a good introductory offer, kind of low risk for the client, an investment of some money, and they get to sample your services and then, realize they want to go even deeper, they can do that. But also platforms for scalability. So doing virtual group healings, also building out more digital products, MP3s with healing frequencies embedded in that. What I envision right now, I'll be doing a series, probably because I'm like the happy and healthy pet, for issues of animal and behavior issues with animals. So it's a tool, like for example, frequently, especially dogs can freak out during fireworks or thunderstorms. Mm-hmm. And often the pet parents have already done the low hanging fruit. So if it's, thunderstorms, there's a thing called the Thunder shirt that's commercially available.
Yeah.
Put it on. And lots of times that helps the dog. Great. That works. Stay there. But often they've gone through 90, 95% of the thing. So good chances MP3 will support your animal. So if there's a thunderstorm, play it 10 minutes. And then sometimes, if that doesn't, there's still more, we do a private session. So I'm going to be building out more digital products that will be available. People can download. And yeah. And again, so that kind of moves you away from, trading your time for dollars to, make it more scalable.
Yeah, and resources out there, right? As they're visiting your website, as you're collaborating maybe with, with other businesses. That's one thing. We'll talk offline. I've got some ideas for you that, my brain works with. Oh man, I heard in your message 3 industries that I know that you could collaborate with that maybe you haven't thought of. So we'll talk about it. But
yeah, and I do want to add about the collaborations.
Yeah.
So I've also been the guest on, invited guest on a lot of radio shows, podcasts, and I've discovered that especially I've been on one show, the Jimmy Mack Healing Show, 4 times over, I guess, the last 2 years now, and that always converts. And I think the key for that is, again, Jimmy Mack's a great person and very generous. He shares his platform. So every Tuesday he has a healing show, he invites different healers, and we kind of team up and do healings on live callers. Okay, 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes. And what I've discovered is a lot of his clients, he's had his business for 10 plus years, doing healing work for 20 in his own kind of this form in the last 10, are also my ideal clients. So I get before them, and lots of times I'll get referrals for my work with pets. And so that's been helpful. And I think also just being on different podcast platforms gets out the word about your business. Because again, my business is relatively less common.
Sure. I mean, it's a different industry, and seems like you've actually carved your own, really your own industry, your own niche, your own process, right? So interesting enough, you talk about scale, creating these diversified product lines. That really means, different revenue streams for you eventually. Right now, as you grow into that, where do you see kind of the next year, 2 years, 5 years going?
Yeah. So like shorter term, like I said, definitely continue to develop my presence online. And from the beginning, when I started my business, I always envisioned my business to be a virtual business.
Mhm.
So before COVID, 95% of my work was done online. And now with, COVID and everything, it's 100%. But continue to move in that direction. I think there are a lot more tools, Zoom, a lot of things that make things technology, very user-friendly to use versus Google Hangouts, which I always found to be kind of clunky. But, so if I'm not a techie, maybe those that are starting their business, if they're in the 20s, I say, I think the kids come out of the womb with an iPad attached, that's just where we're at today. But moving in that direction, again, continue to build out, in addition to more individual healings, group healings, and digital products. So the next probably 3 years. And then longer term, my long-term vision too is, we'll let the dust settle with whatever's going on right now, the pandemic and everything. But I envision returning to the international space, maybe just virtually or in person, because I've always had this vision that I would be doing healing work again in the international stage, maybe in Latin America or back in Asia. Because some of my biggest moments, I've always had this vision of being on one of these like old school, like wooden trains, kind of like where you pull down the windows, kind of like from the end of the 19th century. And I'm going out to a remote place of the US. I mean, not in the US, and it feels like Asia. Anyway, and I'm part of a team. I've always wanted to be part of a team. As there's a time and place for Western medicine, great. But I've found through all my international travel experience, my experience in Mexico and Latin America, that often other parts of the world are more open to the type of work I do and see the benefit. And that would be my long-term vision is that I'm doing international work, either virtually with clients or on the ground.
I love it. The last gentleman I just shared with you offline, David, talked about this just natural, organic. I mean, there's so many benefits to what, whatever faith you have, but I call him God, right? Has given us these tools. And it's so awesome that you've had this feeling inside you and you've got this vision. So I hope you guys hear that too, community, is, look at the vision that you have, kind of, crystallize that, put that on your dream board, understand kind of where you want to go and how you're going to get there, through masterminds, through groups, through collaboration, and be aware, obviously, that we all need to make money to be able to pay the bills and grow a lifestyle and all that stuff. But it's interesting that you put in that professor work for so many years and you did well at that, and now you've like started to catapult, and it's going to even grow bigger to what you're doing here. So I appreciate that. So look, Mark, I appreciate what you've been able to share today. We like to end with certain things that come to our mind, as far as the CEO mindset. As far as a client experience, what would you say is the, I guess, differentiator for when people come to you and how they experience your service?
Yeah, I think the differentiator is I think, there'll be a lot of healers that do modality X, method X, but ultimately people buy from people. And in order to do the work I'm doing today, I've had to go through my own spiritual journey and do my own work on myself and my own life. So what people typically tell me is the results come through faster with my work. And again, I'm very clear. The work that I do comes from God, source creator. I work with archangels. I work with the light team. So it's very amazing what comes through. I'm allowed to see quite a bit of what's going on with people's energy and clear it. 2020, things are moving pretty fast. Maybe even 3 years ago, to release something took 55 minutes. Now it's often gone in 5. So I think that's it. I've had other people said I've worked with other body code practitioners, and yours is different. Because I think it's with anything, you learn something as, a point of departure, and you're always going to soup it up. So someone else, may be the Model T from 1917. And for some, that gets the job done for what they need. Great, stay there. For others, it may be the Tesla from 2020. Mine's the Tesla from 4020. We're going to go fast and we're going to get results.
Awesome. I love it. I love that. And there has to be confidence in what you do, especially in a service like yours where it's a bit different, but just that genuine confidence that you can deliver. Pretty cool. We didn't really, in the scale part of our conversation, we didn't talk about this, but do you have any employees that work for you, or are you starting to build maybe a network of apprentices, that type of thing? Because the question is just employee engagement. If you do have people that work for you, or maybe counterparts, contracted people that work with your organization, how do you keep them engaged?
Yeah, great question. So I'm a solopreneur right now. I will, in the near future, be hiring a virtual assistant. And with the current spiritual business coach I'm working with, she's already recommended someone that works with healer types. So she kind of gets the general vibe of what we do. Because often a lot of people really don't understand what we do. So anyway, so that will be, but other than that, we'll see where we're at. So probably longer term, might have some contractual people, but my vision is pretty much to be a solopreneur.
Okay. And lastly, operational excellence. How have you set yourself up so that you've got the systems, you understand where your marketing budget is? What are you doing to make sure that your operation is running fluidly and you feel energetic about that? No pun intended.
Yeah, I think that's an area where I'm growing right now as we speak. So I think as we discussed earlier, kind of building out the businesses, kind of diversifying the portfolio of services I offer and revenue streams, we're going to be putting in place more of those operational things. And I'm getting, new ideas. I've done you know, and the spiritual business coach I'm working with is helping me with that. So that's definitely going to be an area of growth for me in the next probably 1 to 3 years.
I appreciate the candidness too, being open that you don't have it mastered, and it's a progressive thing, right? But I will say, it sounds like you've got Mo on your side. I call him momentum, right? You built out from 2013. You took a 5-year window. You really decided to, engage, recreate, reestablish, and then launch again in 2018 all in. So pretty awesome stuff. Hope that the Go for CEO community really here's what Mark is saying, talked about what his business was. And if you have an interest in this type of business or even interested in being a client, Mark, can you share a little bit about your website, your Facebook page, your group, your phone number, just everything that you have available to really engage with people around the world?
Sure. So if you go to your favorite search engine and type in my business, it's People and Pets Energetics, ENERGETICS, peopleandpetsenergetics.com. It'll take you to my website. There you can find out more information about me, book a session if you feel guided, learn about the People and Pets Show, and more. Also, right now, I'm offering a free MP3 called Pet Calm. So if your pet experiences nervousness, anxiety, when they go to the vet, the groomer, play it for 10 minutes, see what happens. And then also Facebook, you can find me on Facebook, my business page, which is People and Pets Energetics. And then for some people like to pick up the phone, you can give me a call at 210-775-2696.
The last one is what I did. I just picked up the phone. Mark was gracious enough to give me a few minutes, share the story of Go for CEO, and today we have him on. So thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate your time. Any last words that you'd like to share with everybody? And just so you know, we're going to tune in with you in about 6 months. Love seeing our channel is going to be the one that hopefully a community becomes a community within the community following you, Mark, and your business. And what I want to do is follow you, every 6 to 12 months, check in with you, see how things are going, and really kind of build that audience of, man, I hope to see Mark again, and what is he up to, and all that type of stuff. And so, but any final words on your side?
Yeah, I think just my final words is just keep moving forward. I'm going to reiterate a message I put out earlier. Keep your energy field clear, clean, and sovereign. We're all being bombarded, whatever we're doing in life, with a lot of things, and keep dreaming.
Love it. Well, thanks so much, Mark. I appreciate you joining the Go for CEO community. And hey, by the way, I'm not that good at it yet, but I haven't said it. Smash the like button, subscribe, check out Mark's stuff. We'll put all his bio information on the bottom of it, and check us out on LinkedIn as well, our Facebook member group page as well. But thank you so much for what you've shared today, Mark, and hopefully that we'll see each other in about 6 months as well.
Sounds great. Thank you, John.